All right, Aphrodite, we are back live, coming to you live at 101.5 FM WLCB, Slade's Corner, Wisconsin. This is your Insurance Corner, and for the next hour, Sean Hauser and I will take you through a limerick of ideas. In this case, tonight, estate planning, a.k.a. durable powers of attorney, a very critical concept for everyone who is fogging a mirror. And I say that literally. Doesn't matter how big of an estate or small of an estate you have, durable powers of attorney are a critical aspect to your overall planning as you get older, or in the case of adult children that are still trying to figure things out. There is a place for a parent or friend or loved one to step in the event of incapacity. So, but before we get into the specifics of all that, and I've done a lot of research on this. I've got at least 75 pages of reading material that I went through before we started doing this. But that being said, this is your Insurance Corner. And now, coming to you live somewhere from the bunkers in Dayton, Ohio, close enough to the Cincinnati Reds to be a Cincinnati Reds fan, far enough away from the Cincinnati Bengals to wish they were a better team than they are. Sean Hauser.
Good afternoon, Bill, and this update in just from the NFL draft with the 2,333rd pick. Apparently, the Cleveland Browns finally took Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah, 5 quarterbacks in the roster. That'll work.
Well, I got to tell you, I hope one of them can throw. I hope one of them can stay out of trouble, and I hope one of them can find the waiting hands of one of their wide receivers or tight ends, because that team needs help.
Yeah, well, Joe Flacco's a pretty good quarterback, but he's old or older. And if he doesn't have a front line, much like the Bears did, he'll be running for his life. So
I guess we need 5.
She might. Shedeur got his lunch handed to him because of his, as I understand it, reading some of the material on the internet and listening to the talking heads on ESPN, that he got his lunch handed to him because he wasn't prepared. This is the NFL, Mr. Sanders, and that stands for not for long if you're not prepared.
It was interesting to watch it because, first thing ESPN puts up, this guy's going to go first, right?
Right.
And then team after team after team picked, and he kept going down, and Mel Kiper, God bless him, kept the faith and kept pushing for him, but he just never got chosen. And then you started hearing about how his dad was out in the media saying there's certain teams that he wouldn't let his son play for, and things like that. And it kind of reminds me of what was the dad's name? Lonzo Ball and those guys that played in the NBA, and dad shot his mouth off, and a lot of teams said, "Hey, we're not going to deal with that." So.
And I don't know, to that end, Shiloh Sanders, the other kid, didn't get drafted. And I've heard different things. I've heard he fired his dad as an agent, and I've heard that he didn't fire him. I've heard it twice that he fired Deion Sanders, and the other one, my son is kind of connected with a lot of that stuff. So I don't know where you're getting your information from, but that didn't happen. Either way, he got a free agent contract with, I think, Tampa or the Giants or something. I can't remember what team he went to. Buccaneers, yeah. So there you go. So, but you know what? What do they say? Hey, Dad, you've had your time in the limelight. Now let your kids shine. You can give them advice, but don't step into the circle.
Well, there's a way to do it, right?
Yep.
There's a way to promote your son and make sure he gets the best he can get. But, Deion Sanders is a big personality.
Yes, he is.
when you focus that type of attention on, on one of your kids, and you put all of these NFL GMs who are probably babysitting a cartload full of prima donnas anyway, and then you got to put up with all this added pressure. And then if you read the scouts picks, they're saying Shedeur Sanders, great on the long ball, but his short ball, it wobbles. Sometimes it's just not on target. He throws it too low. So, hey, are you going to take that kind of heat for a guy that may or may not deliver?
Yeah.
I'm putting him back.
And who's the Brock Purdy? He was the Mr. Irrelevant, I think, right? Last person picked. I forget what year he went in the draft, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So, and we've seen countless quarterbacks. I can't think of the guy's name. I think he went to Oregon. Ryan Leaf, great quarterback in college, was a bust in the pros. Johnny Manziel couldn't stay out of his own way. Bust in the NFL, bust in the Canadian League. I don't even know if he's still playing anymore.
He isn't. He's as a sportscaster and inspirational speaker, but there's a lot of top-name quarterbacks. Like the kid that came out of Notre Dame, went to the Browns. They blew him apart.
Yep.
The gentleman, Justin Fields from Ohio State.
Yep.
Went to the Bengals, the Browns.
The Bears.
Or Bears, sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I knew it was a B.
Yeah.
And you watch that guy and his play calling on his arm, when he would flip up his flap, it would say, "Run for your life."
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, now some of that was because the Bears didn't have a front line to protect him. Calling. I forgot to turn off my phone. But you're not wrong. Here's what I know. I can't speak to the Bengals. I can't speak to some of the Bears stuff. We're more excited now because they've done some stuff to shore up the front line. They've done some stuff on defense. They have a coach that they have bent the knee to. Our quarterback is going to have another coach for the third year in a row and a whole new system to learn, but at least he's got a year under his belt or two, and we'll see. Actually a year. So he's been with two coaches now in 2 years. So 2 new systems, but we'll see. These guys are all pros. They're making tons of money. I would give my eye tooth to make half of what they're making. And I would bust my butt and probably break my legs trying to do it.
Well, all I got to say, Bill, is they forgot the immortal words of the coach. And, of course, we're talking about Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
Right? You got your wide receivers, you got your quarterback, you got your running back. But what you need is a bunch of Grabowskis up on that front line. Mm-hmm. And that's what the Bears have had some, but not all.
Yeah.
Just big, hulking, strong guys that can hold for 4 to 5 seconds just to let that quarterback get back, look at the field, and throw.
Philadelphia Eagles, Sean, were exactly like that this year. They had 5 or 6 300-pound hogs on the front line, And when you saw what is it called, the tush push, the defense didn't have a chance. It didn't help. It didn't hurt that the quarterback for the Eagles was 250 pounds. So that kind of helps too. And I guess he can leg press 400 or 500 pounds. So that's a definitely big help. But when you got 5 300-pounders on the front, and maybe you add a big defensive lineman in the backfield for an extra push. I feel bad for those guys on the front line on defense. They're just going to get annihilated. Just a full little history, though. That tush push was actually, I remember a play like that happening in high school. Never forget it. I went to Forest View High School in Arlington Heights, and I remember distinctly a play just like that tush push, and that was against the rules back then. At least in high school, you couldn't do that. So we'll see whether or not that whole thing gets disintegrated over the next year or two. I guess they tabled it for this year, but couple of other little tidbits. Hockey is in full bloom, folks. I'm a huge, huge hockey fan. And forget about the Blackhawks. They're a terrible team right now. Hopefully in the next 5 years they'll figure something out. But if you're a hockey fan, the hockey games that have been going on from Winnipeg and St. Louis and Tampa and Florida, and I forget some of the other teams. I think Carolina's in it. Or I don't think it's Columbus. I think it's Carolina. This is good hockey. The LA Kings and Edmonton are playing. This is all good, really good hockey. And the speed, if you've never played, folks, I'm telling you, the speed that these guys that skate and move and handle the puck the way they do at the speed they're doing it, it is stunning. And the way which you can measure that is go to a pro game and go to a minor league game like the Chicago Wolves or the Rockford Ice Hogs. You'll see a distinct difference in the speed and the skill level of the pros versus the guys who are trying to make it into the league. It's just stunning. And then last two things. Sally and I are making our way to Cincinnati, as you know, Sean. And not to get personal stuff, but probably do lunch when we get it from Columbus to Cincinnati. Okay. We're staying in Hebron, Kentucky, which is 15 minutes from the airport. Yeah. So, but we'll meet somewhere near the stadium before the game starts and have a chuckle.
We'll have insurance corner strategy planning. Got it.
One of these days, I'm going to buy a whole unit. I'm going to need your and Chris's help, but I'm going to buy a unit so I can take the show on the road one of these days.
Take care of it.
And then lastly, just a shout out to my cousin and his son, my cousin Rick and his son William. We're going to see them on Friday in Columbus. I haven't seen Rick in a long time. I have not met my namesake, who is William, but his surname is William. He's actually named after my uncle, who I'm kind of named after. And he's playing baseball. He's a senior in high school, and I'm going to get a chance to see him. What's cool about what's cool about William, Sean, is that he's already interested in trying to save money, and he's reached out to me a couple times for discussions about how to save, what to do, what not to do. And I said, before you get into savings, let's figure out what you want to do. You want to go to school? You want to go to trade school? You know, what do you want to do? I'm not telling you don't save any money, but understand that if you're going to go to college, you're going to want spending money for fun time. At the same time, put $25 or $50 away if you can do it. It's probably not going to, you're not going to miss it. And that's going to go so far compared to if you waited until you're 25 or 30. The time value of money concept is just blows things away if you start early enough. So shout out to them. And then one last thing, and this kind of partly personal, but related to some stuff we've talked about in the past, Sean. A week ago Wednesday, I talked to a client of mine whose name is Barb. And I'll just say her name, Barb Sable. Barb and I have known each other for almost 30 years. She was an accountant for me for a long period of time. She still stayed a client of mine. She was a friend of mine. She's seen me do some gigs at various venues. She was a guitar player. She was also into northern Wisconsin and boating and fishing and that kind of stuff. She and a friend of hers were heading out to Jamaica on the 26th of April. And yesterday I got a phone call from her son. Barb passed away in her sleep in Jamaica. I set up an international policy for them on the pretext that if you get sick or hurt, you know, you'll be taken care of, and then if you need to be repatriated, they'll take you to the nearest U.S. hospital. Well, in this coverage, which I don't really pay much attention to because you don't think about it, is a death benefit. And these international policies, folks, people do die while they're overseas. It happens, sadly. How do you get them home? This policy will cover up to $25,000 to repatriate, whether you put the body in a box or you cremate them on site and then bring them home with you. But the other part of this, Sean, that's quite interesting that I didn't know is there is an entire process of trying to repatriate somebody's remains when they're coming home, including involving the State Department. So for those of you who are planning on taking a cruise or going overseas, whether it's the Caribbean, Australia, Europe, China, name where you're going, don't poo-poo this idea that you think your medical plan is going to take care of you. I can promise you this, your medical plan is not going to fly you home. I don't care if you've got United, Blue Cross, Cigna, Shifting Sands Insurance Company. These international policies are developed, produced, and structured to take care of a person if they get sick, they get hurt, or they pass away, including in a lot of cases covering your luggage. So the travel policies that you get from travel agents may do that, may not do that. I don't know. Some of them have pre-existing condition limitations. The ones I sell, we came across one, Sean, that does not have a pre-existing condition limitation. That's a big deal. But these international policies are really critical. My heart and my prayers go out to the Sable family, particularly Seth. And it's a sad commentary. It's a sad thing for their family, and it's going to take probably a week to get her back home, given all the paperwork and the moving parts. But this insurance company has already stepped in front of him to manage a lot of the issues, because most of us don't know what we don't know. And the international company that I put them with knows what they have to do to get the body back. So anyway, leave it at that. And so now we're going to get into our show, folks. Last week, as Sean and I can attest, we covered a lot of the basics of estate planning. We talked about powers of attorney. We talked about having a will, not having a will, trusts, different kinds of trusts, what they're useful for, what they may not be useful for. I've since, Sean, in the last couple of days, finished my initial draft of a PowerPoint that I'm going to be presenting to a client of mine next week. I showed it to my estate planning attorney, and his comment was, for an initial discussion, this is really good. He didn't make any adjustments at all. I was blown away that he didn't make any adjustments at all. And then what was nice, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn here, folks, but what was nice was that my estate planning attorney said, your clients should know how lucky they are to have somebody like you. And that was a nice thing to say. I just feel like I have to do what I have to do, what is the right thing to do to take care of my clients, because they don't know what they don't know. And in my world, there's a lot that they don't know, and it's not their fault. They're not taught this stuff in school. They're not taught this stuff in high school, not college. And so how do you learn? You either learn through the school of hard knocks, or you learn by getting next to somebody like myself who kind of knows the ropes, or if I don't know, then I know somebody who does, and I hook you up with them. So that was really encouraging. I'm still going to go back and probably tweak a couple things, but I may very well use this as a part of some of my seminars that I'm doing. So let's start. Tonight's show, folks, is going to be on powers of attorney. What are they? How useful are they? Who should have one? Why should they have one? Can they be changed? How does that change take place? Can you do one on your own, or do you need an attorney? So, Sean, before I get started into the definitions here, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm interested because I am probably part of the majority that has not completed one of these documents. So
I would tell you, I mean, almost every single client of mine, Sean, has not done one of these. Almost. And it's not because they don't care. It's that I said this last week, I'll say it again. You're admitting to your mortality. And that's a hard concept. That one day you're here, the next day you're not. And do you have your ducks in a row? And are those ducks legitimate? Are they valid? Are the documents that they have valid, or have they been invalidated, or have they been challenged? And so with durable powers of attorney, you have ostensibly two different kinds. You have what's called a general power of attorney, which grants broad authority but terminates. This is a critical piece, folks. When you're getting a general power of attorney, it terminates when the principal becomes incapacitated or dies. And that first one is a big deal, because when I talk about durable powers of attorney, or powers of attorney in general, I specifically talk about if you get sick or hurt, you need somebody to speak on your behalf. And the general power does not do that. In fact, it's quite the contrary. Very specifically says if the principal becomes incapacitated, the power of attorney ceases to exist. A general power also dies when the principal dies. That's true of any power of attorney. Doesn't matter if it's durable power or general power. When the principal passes away, the power of attorney passes with him or her. Generally, the general power of attorney can be specific or limited, but generally it's a broad one. It's there mostly for business and financial transactions. It's not necessarily there for healthcare, although I suppose it could be. But it's there to manage somebody's estate. So, Sean, if you were like Donald Trump, you signed off on letting somebody else manage your affairs because you just got too many things going on. There's no way that you can handle all of that. So you assign somebody, whether it's a family person or a professional, to manage your affairs while you're alive. That's a general power. A durable power of attorney is quite different. It continues it's the same. It grants broad authority or limited authority, but only terminates at death. It is there specifically to continue if the principal becomes incapacitated. And that's the one I usually fall into when I talk about this with my clients. Sean, if if something happened to you, who can speak on your behalf? Is it Kelly? Is it one of your brothers or sisters? Is it, Santa Claus? Who gets to pick? And you have the total authority to not only pick who you want, but you have the right to revoke those decisions on the fly. But you have to have one. And then durable powers of attorney are then broken down into two different pieces. One is for property. Property is broadly defined as your business, your home, your bank accounts, your credit cards, your utility bills, your cell phone bill, those kinds of things. Those kinds of things that are not healthcare related. And I know last week, or maybe we had this discussion in the past. Who owns your phone, Sean? You or Kelly?
I do.
Okay. So if something happens to you, is Kelly able to call whoever you have as your vendor and say, I need to talk to somebody about my bill?
No.
No, she's not. They will shut her down so fast it'll make her head spin. And it will really tick her off.
Irritate her.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And, it's one of those things that you think of, and I think I told you the story about one of my lodge brothers that went to pay his Walmart credit card bill at the store.
Yep.
And they wouldn't take his check because he wasn't on the account.
Right. So the powers of attorney will address that particular thing. Now, that could still happen until one of your brothers in the lodge comes back and says, here's my power of attorney. You have to honor this payment. I mean, it's still blown away that they won't take your check. But you made the point.
Because a lot of people fraudulently pay bills these days.
Yeah.
But no, what I told him was just buy a stamp, put it in an envelope, mail it to them. They don't care. Yeah,
they'll process it all day and twice on Sunday because they're just on automatic pilot when they're getting payments like that.
You got it.
But durable power of attorney is for property, and then a separate one for healthcare. And you can have the healthcare thing goes from everything from treatment to surgeries to hospitalization to when do we move mom or dad, or when do we move them from the hospital to the rehab center or to hospice or to nursing home, et cetera, et cetera. You are entitled as a agent of the principal under a healthcare power of attorney to sit in the room with the patient, even if they're fully competent, but just be there as a second ear to help them, guide them through things, because you have that piece of paper in hand. You will not be denied. And I'll take it one step further. Let's say that you had power of attorney for healthcare, and the medical doctors that are treating, let's say Kelly in this case, disagree with your decision about what you want to do with regard to Kelly's healthcare. And they're sitting there stamping their foot and shaking their head, and they can do that until they're blue in the face. They cannot override the power of attorney's decision. Nor can a nursing home override the power of attorney, even if they disagree with the agent's decision-making process. So, and we're coming to the bottom of the hour. I just saw that there's a nice clock on the wall, Sean, and it's actually perfectly positioned that I can see it. So we're coming to the bottom of the hour, folks. We got a lot more to talk about with durable powers of attorney. That is Sean Hauser. My name is Bill Miksch. I'm president of WDMA Financial Group in Grayslake, Illinois. This is your Insurance Corner, and we'll be right back after these short messages.